Hello and welcome to IBTimes UK. The Nigerian military headquarters have been recently moved to the town of Maiduguri, capital of Borno State, the epicenter of terror group Boko Haram's deadly insurgency. The relocation was announced by newly elected President Muhammadu Buhari, who has vowed Nigeria would do anything it can to defeat terrorism in the country. We spoke with Chris McMurdo, founding director of Contest Global, and Emmanuel Akinwotu, freelance journalist and commentator on Nigerian politics, on the fight against Boko Haram, as well as Nigeria's most pressing issues such as corruption and fuel crisis.
I think with any state confronting a transnational issue like Boko Haram, I think it requires a regional effort. So I think Buhari's doing the right thing to create a regional coalition to tackle this problem because it affects a wide range of states in the region. The second question is whether the Boko Haram problem can be solved through military means exclusively. So I think the Nigerian government, it's a good opportunity to reflect on the toolkit that they have at their disposal to use the military in an effective way against the threat posed by Boko Haram, but also look at the drivers and enablers of the threat and respond to it effectively through other means as well. As I say, it's not just about threat mitigation or the threat that Boko Haram poses, it's about the drivers of violence, about the enablers of violence, and prosperity, education, cultural, social and economic drivers are factors that need to be identified and addressed by the government to tackle Boko Haram effectively. So issues like corruption in Nigeria and elsewhere, I think are salient factors that need to be considered by the new government, yeah.
I think that the Nigerian military, largely their attack on Boko Haram has been quite epileptic. It's not really been a sustained assault on the group, and that's largely because where the group is largely situated, it's very difficult for them to attack them from all angles. They operate on the border regions between Niger, Chad and Nigeria, so it kind of necessitates kind of a regional strategy. And that's probably why Nigeria has had much more of a bigger diplomatic push, not only in terms of countries like in the G7 last weekend, but also engaging more with Cameroon, Niger and Chad, because I think that's really the most straightforward way of at least making some progress in attacking the insurgency.
Former President Goodluck Jonathan was sometimes accused of not stepping up the efforts to combat terrorism and address issues such as corruption and the army's indiscipline, which has led to allegations of human rights abuses. The election of Buhari in March is the first democratic transition of power since military rule and a long list of coups d'etat. Many Nigerians hope that the new president, a former military chief, will be able to tackle problems that the previous administration failed to address. Do you think that the country's, at the moment, widespread corruption can be an obstacle to the fight against terrorism?
To a certain degree, it has been in the past. I think I'm quite optimistic that it will play less of a role going forward. Firstly, because there is a lot more international focus on the military operation. I think that will kind of stifle some parts of the corruption that had been so kind of unaccountable for so long. So I think overall, I think you can be quite optimistic that the operation from the Nigerian end will be a lot more efficient. Whether or not that's enough is yet to be seen, but I think that there will be a lot more efficiency and a lot more impetus to attack the group in a sustained way.
And what do you think Nigerians expect from Buhari?
I think they expect a lot, to be honest. I think it's completely impossible for him to deliver on everything. He's the first opposition leader to win an election. That comes with a groundswell of expectation that he undoubtedly won't be able to meet. But I think what he will be able to do is use a lot of the optimism to get some things through. I think power generation is a crucial issue. I think fuel. The Nigeria is one of the biggest oil producers in the world, but actually it doesn't have more than about 15 years of oil supply left. Diversifying the economy has been one of the big challenges of the last government, but it needs to do so much quicker. I think another thing is unemployment, especially youth unemployment, and how that plays in northern parts of the country is also a factor as to what spreads, what allows the northeastern regions of Nigeria to be so ripe for terrorism. So I think tackling that also feeds into the security agenda. So I think these are some of the massive issues, as well as infrastructure, which holds Nigeria back tremendously for what is actually supposed to be the biggest economy in Africa. It could do far better if it had a much more accessible, much more usable infrastructure. I think Nigeria right now is at a critical moment, largely because there are a kind of confluence of different crises. The government can't really focus on one big issue. There are so many issues. It has to focus on simultaneously, and there's never been a greater need for structural reform. So in a way, whilst there are a lot of massive issues, it's also a massive opportunity to implement reforms that have long been overlooked.